Hey.
Oh, cool.
Okay, let's see how this looks. Let's see if it's working.
We're
Hi,
live.
we're here. It's working and everything.
So it says.
Yes. Okay. It's still switching by itself. That's good. All right. I've got the link here. I'll give that to you. So do you see on the left, there's like a chat?
There is.
Do you see you get a chat bubble pop up or anything just now?
Oh, yeah, it's on the right for me.
Okay. Well, take that link and why don't you send it over to the Facebook group and I'll do it on Twitter.
Copy. Okay.
Just you know that a very Animorphs Christmas is now live.
People will be so thrilled.
Mm-hmm.
Heading up the Facebook page. Boy, I'm hoping you're bringing it, man, because I'm bringing it pretty hard here. Just so you know.
It's going to be good. Don't you worry.
Oh.
Hashtag Animorphs. Hashtag YA books. Hashtag podcast. Let's get all those hashtags in.
Okay. We're on the Facebook, so that works.
Cool. Sorry, just a minute. For anyone watching this post live, try not to be too boring. Mitch, entertain the folks.
We'll do a little song and dance, a sea shanty. No, so yeah, we're going through a very Animorphs Christmas episode, very special, and what we've done is we've come up with two different stories that we want to see eventually someday, maybe. Probably never gonna happen, but I mean, if Animorphs had a Christmas special, one of these stories would be it, I think.
Yeah, and that's I think it's very safe to say. And I think we've pulled all of our creative juices, as gross as that sounds, to make this a special experience.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I came up with my idea in one day.
Me too. I came with it literally. Well, I came up with it the other day, but I perfected it today.
Sure. And I mean, we've had these kind of ideas that we've been throwing around for a while now. This was actually fun to just sort of sit down and actually list them all and put them into a outline.
People might not know what we're doing yet, so let's get the old Audacity running real quick. If you're here during the pre-show, we're gonna have to sync up our Audacity so that we can put out a high quality audio episode for our podcast listeners. So you're gonna see a little behind the scenes here for a second.
I am ready to go when you are.
Okay, I think I might have recorded the last episode a different way. That's fun to find out.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay.
Yeah, I thought last time we were doing it through YouTube Live.
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now too.
Oh, it just goes through Google?
Well, it uses Google Hangouts, and so I started that Google Hangout and then tried to access YouTube, but YouTube would rather it do it through itself. So
okay,
we're on YouTube.
It's a learning process.
And you know, camera placement stuff. We're both still working on that. Are you using your new camera yet, Mitch?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Cool. Okay, you ready to try out Audacity?
Ready when you are.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, record. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I think we're good.
Cool. That's good. All is good. Perfect.
So it would seem.
Oh, in our first chat, it was my wife.
Oh.
Thanks.
Welcome
honey.
to the show, Liz.
Oh, we had 4 watching, and that dropped down to 3. Ugh. 2 of us. 2 of those are you and me. So it's you, me, and my wife right now.
Okay, so it does count us then.
I think so. Because I've got the YouTube open to see the chat.
Oh, see, I don't have the YouTube open, though.
How do you see the chat?
I'm seeing it through Google Hangouts.
Aren't you just seeing the chat I sent to you?
No, I didn't click the link.
Oh, but do you see Liz's comment?
Oh, no, I don't.
Yeah, because you're just looking at the group chat for the Hangout. You're not looking at the YouTube chat.
Oh, man. So I gotta open it up? Fine.
I think so, unless there's some other way to add it that I don't know of.
Okay.
Yeah, I just opened a YouTube window.
Oh, well, Liz is there.
Okay.
It says there's 4 of us, though, so if that's you, me, and Liz, should be one more.
And Tony Abbott, apparently.
Oh, see, well, there you go.
He's already getting ideas. Okay, so now that we're recording, welcome to Thoughtspeak, a podcast usually dedicated to talking about Animorphs, the 1996 book series created by K.A. Applegate. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're not talking about a K.A. Applegate created Animorphs book. We are feeling the season's greetings and many Yuletides, whatever those are. And we are going to, or we've already come up with our own Christmas-themed Animorphs books, which we are going to pitch to each other in a normal summary form, like we would go through a normal Animorphs book. So we both created our own separate, without each other knowing what the stories are, we both created our own separate Christmas Animorphs tales, and we're going to walk you, our dear listeners, through on this exciting journey.
That's right. Yes. So these are Christmas specials. We're gonna call them, and I don't know about yours, but mine is certainly a little bit longer than a standard Animorphs adventure, and it kind of jumps perspectives a bit. So it's more akin to a Megamorphs, which I think is pretty fitting for a holiday Christmas special.
See, right? I feel like I got mine to clock in right at about the length of a normal book.
Well, I guess mine could be the length of a normal book. It's just that it does jump perspectives, which I always find more interesting than staying with one character's perspective. You're able to tell a little bit more of a story.
I stayed with one character, surprisingly.
Cool.
And you will not be able to guess what character I decided to write a book for.
Cassie.
That's a really good guess.
Well, you said I wouldn't be able to guess, so yeah.
I gave it away. Sure. But anyway, so how are we going to do this? How do you want to do this? Who do you want to go first, basically?
Well, in my mind, I was picturing you going first.
I'd be okay with that.
I think you've got a little bit, I don't know, more of a fleshed out idea or something. I'm interested in hearing what you got.
Okay. Well,
since you're the one that initially pitched this idea and got us here, I think it's only fair that you start us out. But before you do, should I go ahead and thank the Patreons? I
want you to thank the Patreon, and real quick, and just for a real quick plug, I want to let you guys know that we had a little issue with iTunes, and we lost basically all of our subscribers on iTunes, all of our reviews and our subscribers on iTunes. So if you haven't seen a new episode go up in a while, you might want to see if you're still subscribed, or if anything's going on with your that, or if you want to give us a rating or review. We've only got like 2 up there now, where we had almost like 30 or 40 before. So we'd really mean a lot to us if you go to iTunes, leave a nice review or just a star rating. Just to help us out, and that helps spread the word of the show, and we're going into a new format and everything, so it's just a really big deal to us right now have those, and it helps out the show a lot. But no, I'll let you get into the Patreon. Speaking of helping out the show, our Patreon.
Yeah. That's right. Our Patreon is basically the reason we're able to continue doing this at any sort of pace instead of the one episode every 3 months. It really helps us out, and I got to thank all these people right now. So, big thank you goes out to Mr. Toasty Flatworm, Mr. Peter Schull, Noah Troutman, Jeremy Baxter, Amanda Mimic, Tomb Juice, Ari Shai. You're a $3 subscriber. Thank you. Graith, David C., Kevin Koslowski, Jennifer Baker, James Miola, Jason Thompson, Ben Freeman, Tony Pazak, Kelly Brown, Josh Blount, Andrew Walker, Canicula, cousin of Bunicula, Nita Labrada Gaffaro, Tim Aheen, Daniel Martinoli, Michael Blemick, and Steve Adams. Thank you all so very much for keeping us afloat all these years.
Yeah, no, I mean, that kind of dedication and becoming a Patreon patron, it helps us recur costs of the show. We just bought new webcams because we're starting to get into live streaming. As we take the podcast into new areas and do different things, it really helps, keep it okay with our wives, the Patreon, helping out with some of those costs. So
it justifies it for us.
Yeah, if you want to see more episodes, if you want to see different kinds of episodes or us explore and do different things, becoming a Patreon subscriber is a humongous help to the show. So thank you for that.
100%. Yes. So with that said, like we've been talking about, this is a I want that book type episode. We've never really done one of these before.
We talk about it all the time on the podcast, but we've never dedicated it. So
totally. And I'd like to do something more like this as well. So, if it's popular, if enough people get on here and watch, that would be wonderful. So far we've got Tony Abbott, who's just throwing out good ideas in the chat for what he'd like to see from a holiday special, probably. And who knows, maybe we'll deliver on
it's just Tony Abbott and my wife right now. So okay, so let's get started. I'm going to start with mine. So this is my what I think an Animorphs book written by Kay Applegate for a Christmas themed book would look like. So I don't think it's the case with your book, but I tried to be pretty authentic to the Animorphs series.
Oh, me too.
Okay, like I said, you could have linked at one point.
No, mine is definitely more on par with some of their goofier adventures, I'd say. Okay. But yeah, we'll see.
Mine is like a normal Animorphs book, like the craziest thing in it, are aliens, the Yerks and stuff. So let me walk you through this. So I don't know if you went this intricate, but I came up with a book cover. I didn't Photoshop anything or anything, but so mine is a Cassie book. It's from her perspective.
I knew it.
And I'm titling it The Present.
Oh, I already like that. See, I didn't even have a title or a cover planned out for mine.
Yeah, so Animorphs The Present is my Christmas-themed Animorphs book. So the front cover has Cassie morphing into a reindeer. I think this is the obvious main morph for the book, but I feel like I did a nice twist on it, so you'll see how that's coming. I even did a tagline, a super cheesy, barely having to do with the plot tagline in true Animorphs form. So the tagline on the front of the book is "Sleigh bells ring, are you morphing?"
I would have gone with someone's made the naughty list.
That's also really good. I feel like one was on par. And so the inside, once you open up the book, the inside cover would be a reindeer standing in the food court of the mall, surrounded by people. So that's the inside cover of the book.
Gotcha. All right.
Okay.
I'm hooked.
I'm going to walk you through it. I got a summary written out. I'm going to be kind of reading it a little bit because I want it to be just how I wrote it. So let's get started. So again, this is my Animorphs, a very special Christmas themed book that I came up with. So Marco and Cassie are at the mall. She asked him to help her get a gift for Jake, but he obviously just came along to make fun of her and stuff. He tells her to just get him a game genie so they can go home when they notice this little kid and his mom coming out of a toy store. The kid is throwing a fit and yelling and just causing a scene because he didn't get a toy or something in the toy store. And the mom just has this blank look on her face. So he takes it a little far, and he actually like hits his mom in the face. And there's like no reaction whatsoever. You can tell he knows what he did, and he gets like really quiet. And out of nowhere, she starts like twitching and looks like she's having like a seizure. And before you know it, two mall rent-a-cops come out from the shadows and approach, and they grab this woman and like yank her out, just pull her out of the mall. And so his kid's like left crying, and he's, he doesn't have his mom anymore, and he's by himself. And Cassie wants to like go over and like help him out or like figure out what's going on. But Marco, noticing that something's a little weird with this situation, holds her back for a second. Suddenly, a woman dressed as an elf approaches the crying child and leans over and asks him, "Do you want to see Santa Claus?" And that's our cold open. Boom.
Okay, yeah, there's going to be like multiple interruptions, I'm sure, from both of us.
That's fine.
And I just want to say that I love how yours already starts out with the classic cliche of two of our main characters just happen to be in the right place at the right time, coincidentally, to see an event.
Yep. And I put Cassie and Marco together because I feel like their banter would be more original. Like, you don't see them like hanging out by themselves that often. But this topic of wanting to get Jake a gift, which is really important to Cassie in this book, is what brought them to the mall. So
cool.
Anyway, so we hard cut after we were we got to have her explain what the Yerks are and the normal open. But then we see the next scene is the gang hanging out at Cassie's barn. Marco's telling everyone how they found out that this year's Santa Claus is sponsored by a group called Helping Hands. It's a charity that apparently started around the same time as the Sharing. And through Axe's computer skills, they find out that it's been running for years in other cities, and it was started at the same time as the Sharing because it's a sister Yerk infiltration organization to the Sharing, and it was started just in case the Sharing never got popular or didn't like ramp up in the way that they thought it would. So it's a backup for the Sharing. It's a charity, a huge organization. So they find out this Helping Hands group got started, and that obviously leads them to wonder how many other of these organizations are out there. Maybe the Yerks are more widespread than we even think, it could be like a big thing. So
I think Helping Hands is actually a real charity.
It probably is. And if that's the case, this is even more genius because they're a real life group.
Because they're evil. Yeah.
Yeah. It probably is. But I just can't. I thought that sounded very much like the Sharing, Helping Hands. Anyway, so Helping Hands is behind they're sponsoring the mall Santa this year at the mall. This is we assume just from the Animorphs description that their mall is a very big and very popular mall. So it's probably one of the biggest in the area. It's the one everybody goes to, kind of like the Mall of America up in Minnesota, something of that kind of stature.
Shut up.
So anyway, so this is they're putting on this this Santa this year, but they actually took an empty storefront and they turned it into this whole big like Santa's workshop thing where you line up, you go through, and there's like a fudge booth, and there's like elves running around. It's this whole big thing. You walk through Santa's workshop, and there's a petting zoo with a reindeer exhibit.
So far, this is all pretty realistic stuff that you'd see in a typical mall Santa display.
Exactly. So the Yerks are smart, though. They're not just after they conferred with the Chi, and this all happened before they got to the barn. They found out that the Yerks aren't just grabbing everyone who goes through this line to see Santa. They're only pulling influential people. So if they see like the mayor bring his kid or something, they would try to grab him. But they've got this whole fake storefront so that they can grab people easily. And the kid goes and sees Santa, and their dad gets a Yerk in his head, and they call it a day. So it's a great operation to get new hosts and to possibly grab. And since this is a really popular mall, maybe they'll get some big influencers from it.
Well, and dare I say, there's a Yerk pool entrance at the mall. So again, very easy
access.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. So this is already working for them in multiple ways. So anyway, being the largest mall in the area, they've already taken some high-profile hosts, according to the Chi. Marco states the obvious. We know the mall well. It's basically like our home field advantage. Like, we know we've been in the mall a ton. We've done missions there. We got this. We go in as reindeer from the petting zoo, and we just tear the place up. like they'll have to shut down until next Christmas, and then we'll be able to come up with like a better plan to stop them next year. Because if they morph these reindeer in the petting zoo and then just cause the scene, they wouldn't be able to like fix everything in time for the rest of the year. That's how close they are to Christmas.
You're not taking into account though that this Yerk group could also set up an Easter Bunny display.
They could, but it still gives them time. Like their thought process is, if we stop them right now, they'll have to shut down until after Christmas, and then it'll be a while before they can do something else like this. So it's basically a hit and run scenario as far as missions are involved for them. Plus, they really feel confident knowing the mall, like they can pull this off. So right now, it's just about stopping it as quickly as possible before someone really important, takes their kid to go see Santa. So that's what they decided at the barn. The next day is the last day of school before the Christmas break, and Rachel's hanging out at Cassie's locker. Cassie is still freaking out because she still hasn't gotten Jake anything, and Rachel just doesn't understand why she's making such a big deal over it. Cassie tells Rachel this juicy piece of information. Jake asked her to go steady with him a few days ago. So this being a Christmas episode, we're going to move some major plot lines as far as I'm concerned. So Jake asks Cassie to go steady, and obviously Rachel makes a joke about their relationship being in the 1950s. Like this is that kind of classic, you want to be steady, you want to be my official girlfriend, So it's a big deal, and it took Cassie by surprise. And now she feels like she has to get him like a really good gift now that they're like boyfriend and girlfriend. So Rachel's making fun of her, obviously. And suddenly, though, Rachel goes completely silent and her jaw drops. Tobias is walking down the hallway, but he looks different. He's like wearing clothes that fit well, and he's like put gel in his hair. It's like a Tobias we've never seen before. He's actually like tried to take care of himself a little bit. And it makes a big difference. Like people on the hallway are staring, and like Tobias is not the kind of kid who usually attracts that kind of attention. So he's walking up towards him. And Cassie's like, oh, I know what you want for Christmas. And Rachel punches her.
Wait a minute. Did you say they're at school right now?
They're at school. This is the last day of school before Christmas break.
Oh, why is Tobias at school?
Because it's a surprise. I'm getting to it. You gotta let me get
through. He just showed up. Okay.
Yeah, he just showed up like super well dressed with like gel in his hair, and it's just a very different Tobias. And so Rachel's getting a little jealous that other people are paying attention to Tobias. And before he even gets to him, she runs up and just gives him a big smack on the lips, like big kiss in the middle of the hallway. So he plays it cool, and he says that he wanted to like surprise her. Like he doesn't have a lot of time in Morph, so he spent most of the time like getting ready. But he just wanted to surprise her and have last day of school lunch together at school. So just a really sweet Tobias and Rachel moment. And they walk off, and Cassie kind of wishes that her and Jake could be that like open with the relationship. It's kind of what she's dealing with right now. Her and Jake's relationship are so different, and they're so combined with the war and the Animorphs and everything that she kind of wishes they could have a normal relationship sometimes.
Totally.
Yeah. So anyway, after school, everyone meets up at the mall food court, and they go over their plan. They're going to stand in line to go to Santa's workshop separately and make their way back to the petting zoo. They'll acquire the morphs and get out. Super easy. So Jake and Cassie go as a group, and he's acting a little strange now. He buys her some like candy and fudge at the stand in there, and he like directly in front of everyone like holds her hand, and it's almost like they're a real couple. So anyway, they get to the petting zoo, and it's empty. The sign says they're off delivering presents, a little Santa's helper thing. And Jake and Cassie can't find the others because it's so crowded. But they make their way into the back hallways of the mall, and they find where they're keeping these reindeer. And it's in this, it's next to like the big trash dump underneath where the parking garage is. And it's horrible conditions. These reindeer are like sick. And that's obviously why they weren't up in the petting zoo, because they're being treated horribly. And they even see one of the Yerk workers, handler, like yelling at the animals and like abusing them.
It wouldn't be an Animorphs book without casual animal abuse.
Yep, it wouldn't. That's what I bring to the table. So you see the animals being treated terribly, and obviously this pulls some heartstrings for Cassie. Cassie can't see an animal being hurt and not make it a big deal, obviously. So they go back, they find the others. They manage to acquire the morphs themselves through a harried little action scene where they're like avoiding the handlers and trying to get in, acquire the reindeers as morphs. And once they're done with that, sorry, I'm looking at the chat and
it's coming, Liz.
Not every episode has morphing right away, Liz. Calm down. So anyway, so they acquire the morphs, they get the others, they tell them what's going on, and everybody gets a reindeer morph in this little scene. And they decide that their mission needs to have two parts to it. They got to free these reindeer somehow without grabbing the Yeerk's attention, and they need to obviously shut this operation down. So they don't want to wait too long, but they need a little more time to come up with a plan. So they figure out, we'll carry out the mission tomorrow night before everything closes down. We'll free these reindeer and we'll, stop this operation. So, since they've got a day to wait, Jake pulls Cassie aside and he asks her if she'd like to come over for dinner. Have a nice dinner at Jake's house. Something a boyfriend would ask a girlfriend.
This is like an episode of Degrassi.
Like every good Animorphs book. This I'm just paying off on what the fans wanted. All right, this is becoming real fan fiction. Anyway, so Jake asked Cassie to come over for dinner that night with his family, and it's a big gesture to her. She arrives at his house, and it's the most awkward dinner of her life. Like, Jake is making these weird, out of context jokes, and like not really his personality. He's just being really over the top and like holding her hand and just being like not Jake and Cassie.
He's a Yeerk.
No, he's even wearing cologne, which is very unlike Jake. Like, where did he get cologne? He steal from his dad or something?
From Tom.
From Tom. Tom probably took him aside and gave him a little speech and
give him a condom. You're a little bro.
So he's just being strange, just being really weird. And Cassie can't place it. He doesn't know what's going on. And she's worried. This is her big worry of this book, is that now that they're officially boyfriend and girlfriend, that Jake's changed. He's not who she thought he'd be in a relationship.
He's no longer the leader of the Animorphs that I remember.
Exactly. It's not Jake to her. So in the midst of her thinking this and worrying about it and everything, Tom steals the conversation. And he's talking about how the sharing is actually going to go over to the mall tonight and help out this local charity, Helping Hands, with their Santa workshop. And they need extra help because a local rock band is going to be taking pictures with Santa as this big publicity stunt to them all. And this is a rock band that's like up and coming in the charts. They're not just local anymore. They're becoming nationwide, and they're known for their political statements. They're a very big band and a very big deal. People listen to them. So
it's Bad Religion.
It's an old reference.
Bad Religion is still active.
Are they?
Yeah.
I'm glad they can still get on stage. That's good for them.
They have a Christmas album, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like how they started as a band. That they've really they've changed, man. Anyway,
Continue.
So this big political rock band who's super popular is going to be at the mall at the Santa's workshop, Helping Hands thing. It's a big Yeerk operation. It's a big get for the Yeerks, and it's very obvious. And Tom's bragging about it to the dinner table. So anyway, after dinner, Cassie and Jake call the others and tell them, we've got to move the mission to tonight. We can't wait till tomorrow. We've got to get in here before this rock band gets there. Jake and Cassie go up to Jake's room, and you hear Jake's mom be like, keep the door open. That classic mom thing. And so they close the door, obviously, lock it. And you have a super awkward scene of them like stripping down to their morphing outfits, right?
Whoa, where are you going with this?
It's just, it's just that they're up in Jake's room. It's, they're a couple. It's just a, awkward teenage scene of them.
Sure, and it would be really funny that, that his mom is like, thinking that they're, doing sexual stuff, but really they're like strategizing about a war.
Yeah, that's a double kind of thing on the scene. Anyway, so they morph and fly out the window, and everybody's heading towards the mall. So, just got 2 more paragraphs here, and then the book's done. So I think it roughly we're about where the structure of an Animorphs book would be. You had that initial action scene. You had, now they're heading towards the main mission. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, so everybody lands on the mall roof, and Marco freaks out. They're not ready for this mission at all. Obviously, he's down in the dumps about it. He's worried. He's frantically making jokes, but this is more serious, Marco, because he really thinks that this is kind of too big of an operation for them to do with like no plan whatsoever. Quickly, they try to come up with one. The mall is close to the edge of the forest and like the mountains and everything. So they think maybe they can just like hurry through the reindeer freeing and just kind of like let them loose, and hopefully they'll be okay in the woods for a few days or until they find a habitat more suited for them. So they go ahead and take their place, and they go down and they free the reindeer. The Animorphs, their plan is that they'll free the reindeer, take their place in the cages, and then the workers, seeing that the reindeer are feeling healthy and they're not sick anymore, they'll take them up to the petting zoo, and then they can initiate their plan, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So the first part of the plan goes off pretty much without a hitch, and they're feeling pretty confident. They let the reindeer go. The reindeer are heading in the general direction of the forest, and everything looks like it's going great. This is awesome. Cassie's a little worried because she's like, we're not helping these deer. They're obviously like really sick. We don't know if they'll survive. This isn't the right habitat for them even. She's feeling really crappy about this part of the plan. This is the part that she really cared about. And it seems that they're kind of half-assing it, So they don't have time to do anything else. So it doesn't matter. But Cassie feels pretty bad about it.
As usual.
Yeah, nothing they can do now. So they morph reindeer, or get some morphine, finally, in my morphine story. They morph reindeer, they get in the cages, and they wait. An hour goes by. Nothing. No handlers come down. No one's coming to check on them. They're just locked in these cages for no reason. And they figure out that basically the Yeerks, after seeing sick reindeer all day, they've given up on the petting zoo idea. That's what the conclusion they come to. Like, no one's coming down here to get these reindeer. They obviously don't care about them anymore. We got to redo our plan. This isn't going to work. So they have Axe demorph and go up to the mall and just grab somebody and acquire them and put on their clothes. So just a normal mall patron. And instead of, the Yeerks leading them up, they'll just have this random stranger lead them up and put them in the petting zoo. So, okay, great. So they all, get out of the cages. He's leading them up the ramp or whatever to the back doors, and the back doors are locked. You can't open the back doors from the outside. So they can't go through all these back hallways to get to the Yeerk petting zoo and the route that they had planned. And just then, right as they're like frustrated and their plan's falling apart, they see a big tour bus pull up into the parking lot. The rock band comes up. So
the rock band.
That's the end of a chapter to leave you at suspense.
Gotcha. All right. Bad Religion just pulled up.
Mm-hmm. So instead, the next scene is a hard open on the front doors of the mall. And Axe and Human Morph opens the doors, and these 5 reindeer. Yeah.
5?
Right?
Yeah.
4. 5. Yeah, 5 reindeer come in through the front entrance, and Axe like kind of stands out in front of them, and he's leading them, and they're walking. We're talking like crowds and crowds. This is the mall right before Christmas, so there's tons of crowds there, and these reindeer just walking through in perfect file through the middle of the mall, with Axe leading them in Human Morph. And so people are like taking pictures. You got kids up on their dad's shoulders, and it's like a big like Christmas event. Like, people are really excited about this.
Like, they became the Christmas event.
Yeah, it's a Christmas. It's a Christmas miracle, is what it is. So they get to Santa's workshop, the Yeerk front, and they see the band members about to enter the line. And so they talk over Thoughtspeak. What do we do now? And Jake, of course, says the plan. So they charge Santa's chair, and they're racing after Santa's elves. They're just causing a scene. You even have one part where like Marco almost gores Santa Claus himself, and then apologizes to nearby children in Thoughtspeak. He's like, "Oh, Santa just needs to get back to the sleigh, kids. Don't worry about it." And they're, you have these 6 reindeer just flying around, not flying literally, but like running around, tearing up everything, tearing up the fudge booth, causing a humongous scene. That's obviously
pooping everywhere,
poop flying everywhere. And you have the mall start to be evacuated because obviously there's wild animals about, and so people are going out the sides, going out any door they can find, and eventually it's just the Animorphs and the Yerk elves and stuff who are still there, who have the operation. So you start hearing murmurs of Andalite bandits, and obviously everyone there is a Yerk, and they're worried about having this turning into a fight. Maybe some Hork-Bajir are about to jump in, but unfortunately for the Yerks, after a few tense moments, a couple people throwing around the term Andalite bandits, they notice that half the news channels in town are still there. Like this mall and the rock band coming, this promotional event was marketed by the charity, and it was this big event. So like half the town's news channels are there. They got cameramen, they got lights, everything going on, and the Yerks, they can't do anything. So someone, one of the other reporters, they're starting to notice that where the reindeer came from and the petting zoo itself is just horrible conditions, like bad conditions for animals, and they take notice of it. So they have somebody calls the local government like wildlife agency. And so the Animorphs are patiently in a super tense, suspenseful moment. They have to wait for the wildlife agency, the local wildlife agency, to get there, and it's cutting their morphing time super close. They remorphed reindeers before they came in the mall, so that lost hour wasn't lost. But they're still running pretty tight right now on their time waiting for this agency to show up. Finally, they do. There's still a bunch of news reporters there. The Yerks can do nothing. Their operation is shut down. Mission success. And they get into the back of a trailer, like a big, animal trailer, and they're being hauled away. So that's their escape. They get out. And then while they're in the back of the trailer, they morph back to human, morph bird, fly out of the trailer. That's end of mission. So huge success, huge Christmas success of their stopping this humongous Yerk operation. So in our outro, our last chapter, to wrap things up, it's the next day, and Jake calls Cassie, and he tells her he got her a Christmas present and wanted to give it to her early. He sent an anonymous tip to the wildlife organization that helped rescue them, that he saw a bunch of reindeer escape the trailer and go into the woods nearby where they freed the actual reindeer. And so all the sick reindeer were rescued by the wildlife agency, and they're going to be shipped off to a rehabilitation center, and they're going to be safe. So Cassie is just overwhelmed. This is the Jake she always knew it was. He's not putting on a front or anything. This is the Jake she loves. And she's crying on the phone, and she just tells him Merry Christmas. And that's the book.
Okay. All right. Well, that definitely sounds like an Animorphs book. I can clearly picture that in my mind. No big Visor 3 battle.
No, I wanted to go and not have Visor 3 be a part of it.
That's funny. I was thinking the same thing.
I wanted to differentiate mine from so many Animorphs books where Visor 3 just randomly shows up. And I wanted to, pull in that other organization where it wasn't just the sharing. They have this new organization, kind of this new enemy that they'd have to face or do things. And obviously there'd be more details and things written if it were an actual book, but that's the structure. And I think it stays in line with a normal Animorphs book pretty well.
No, it absolutely does. I think if I were to read that book, I'd probably give it a 3 or 4 out of 5.
Wow.
So well done.
High praise from Mitchell.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good start. Honestly, I'm a little surprised at the length, I guess. I apologize if mine goes on for a while.
Well, yours is a Megamorphs versus mine being a normal book, so that's understandable.
Sure. So it's I guess fitting that we saved it for second. Now,
Yeah. Well, real quick, we have a few more people who joined us. Just so you know, we each came up with a fake Animorphs book if it were set during Christmas time or Christmas themed. So I just finished with mine, which is a pretty standard Cassie book that took place at Christmas and was all about it, called The Present. And now we're about to jump into Mitch's. So if you can give it a title, if you had to give it a title right off the fly, what would you name it?
Well, it'd be a Megamorphs book. So, you know how they were called like Back to Before, in the Time of Dinosaurs. What are the other ones?
The Andalite's Gift.
Andalite's Gift. Yeah. So it'd have a title kind of similar to that, where it's like, I don't know, Silent Night, Deadly Night, or something ridiculous like that. And the cover would honestly have to be probably something a little bit more generic, like the In the Time of Dinosaurs cover, where it's just like a mashup of different faces or whatever. Like I said, I didn't think that part through. I focused so much on the storyline, and where yours is actually like pretty realistic. Like I could see, that fitting right in with the Animorphs chronology. It doesn't really introduce too much crazy stuff like hard sci-fi concepts and stuff like that. Whereas mine goes way far in that direction. So without further ado, I'd like to start telling you.
Go. I'm excited to hear it. Let's go through it.
Totally. Okay. So my story begins with the team hanging out in Cassie's barn, as usual, having one last group meeting before the start of their Christmas break.
Okay.
And they're all really excited because they have their chi spies, feeding them information, and just because all the Yerkes host bodies have so much stuff going on over the holiday season that they have to keep up appearances of being normal people. Like even the Yerkes are kind of like on Christmas break, because they're just so wrapped up doing human stuff and keeping up appearances. So Jake and the whole team are like really excited about, oh man, we actually get like a week off from being Animorphs now, and it's going to be great. Despite that though, Jake, Tobias, and Axe are all going to kind of be in town, like on call, just in case a Yerk plot happens to unfold. You got Rachel's really excited to go visit her dad, who I believe is in Australia still. We're not sure where he is geographically.
I don't know if Cassie's seen him in the Outback. So
so he must not be in Australia.
No. So you splitting the group? Is that how your story's starting?
You'll see.
Okay.
So I'm just telling you like where all the characters are at. And they're all grouped up and they're like, super excited about their holiday plans. Jake just happens to be like, his stuff's happening in town, so he can stick around with Axe and Tobias and monitor the situation. Rachel's leaving, going to visit her dad. Cassie's excited about volunteering at like a homeless shelter with her parents.
Helping hands?
She's going to this cool mall Santa display I hear about. And then Marco is like, yeah, me and my dad and his girlfriend are going to go out of town and visit our Jewish family members. And all the team's like, Marco, you're Jewish? And he's like, well, we're not practicing, but, my dad's starting to get into it now more and blah, blah, blah. So we're going to go see what that's all about. And so it
doesn't surprise me that you found a way to bring religion into your story.
I'm just throwing it out there, man. So they've all got their separate plans and they're really excited about it. And this is when Eric shows up, and Eric's like, hey guys, like, we're still doing our thing, but I just wanted to bring one little thing to your attention. I mean, it's probably nothing, but the Yerks do have this little plot I've been hearing just kind of whispers about here and there. It's something that they're really keeping on the down low. In fact, it's only just this one subvisor that's really working on this plot. It's like Subvisor 9 or something.
Okay.
And they're like, so we don't know anything about what he's doing or what this plot is. All I know is that Subvisor has been traveling back and forth over the last couple of weeks to the North Pole.
Whoa. I see where this is
So
going.
right off the bat, everyone's like, "Oh boy, here we go. Buckle up."
Gonna use our polar bear morphs again.
So they're you know, typical team mission. They're like, "All right, we better just have a little conversation about what this means." And as they're discussing it, something happens that they've never seen before. Eric like starts beeping or something, and then he's like, "I'm getting a call." And he projects a hologram call, like a Skype call from another chi. Okay.
Okay.
And this chi is like in bad shape. Like we've never seen a chi damaged, like look like it's battle damaged.
Sure. Yeah.
But this chi is clearly like just barely hanging on. It's noticeably like frightened, which is like really weird for them to see a chi act that way and look that way. And, you know, he's just babbling nonsense. He's like, "I'm sorry, Eric. I failed you. You know, I snuck aboard the subvisor ship and I wanted to find out what was going on. And now I'm in too deep and it's too late. And we've got to stop him. We just got to stop him." And before he can like really get to the meat of what's going on, the signal cuts out and it disappears. And Eric's like, "Oh my God, that's not good. You know what that means? That means that chi was destroyed."
Ooh.
And they're like, "Whoa, what could destroy a chi? Like, that's pretty serious, yeah." So they're like, "Okay, God, I guess Christmas break is over. We got something we got to deal with here." And so they decide that if essentially they got to go tackle this problem. No Christmas break for them.
Okay.
They're super disappointed because once again they've got to rope the chi into covering for them in their personal lives, and which means, you know,
At Christmas, no less.
Exactly. They're really looking forward to this. And now Rachel doesn't get to go to Australia, sending a chi in her place, you know, sending a chi down to help volunteer. They're sending a chi to Marco's Jewish family. Like, that's all going down. Chi's going to fill in for Jake as well. So they're like, okay, now we've got to figure out like how are we going to get to the North Pole? We've done this once before. It was super difficult, didn't work out. And what are we going to do? They start, you know, discussing bird morphs and travel rates and how fast they can get there and blah, 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 blah. But Eric is like, "Yo, this mission's personal to me now. Something up there destroyed a chi. That's my brother. Like, I got to go with you guys and figure this out."
There's not that many of them left. I mean, that's a big deal.
It should be. But, you know, Eric's like, "Sorry to cut in and like tell you guys what to do. I know you're really used to Jake giving you the orders, but I'm going to expedite this process a little bit and we're going to do things my way. So I want you all to take the rest of the night to prepare yourselves, go get stock up on some Arctic morphs, you know, and meet me at the airport at midnight." All right. And, you know, Cassie's like, "Okay, well, obviously I'm going to recommend an Alaskan Malamute as a morph. It's a good, sturdy, you know, dog morph. It's the typical Alaskan sled dog."
Wait, can I interrupt you for just 1 second?
Totally.
Since this is a Megamorphs book, do we get any chapters from Eric's perspective?
We certainly could, but I hadn't planned for it.
Okay, that's
so
fair.
that'd be pretty cool.
I would look forward to that.
Totally. And with him, you know, kind of like essentially joining the team on this mission, it would change the dynamic a little bit. But yeah. So Eric's like, "Hey guys, I got this covered. I got travel covered. Meet me at the airport. Go stock up on some morphs and leave everything to me." So Cassie is like, "Hey, you know, my parents have a friend that has this big Alaskan Malamute. Let's go acquire it." So that's where they get the Malamute morph from. We get a little scene of that, of them playing with the dog and acquiring him. And then everybody goes and meets up, you know, later. We cut to the airport at midnight. So when they get there, they're all like taking stock of their various Arctic morphs and what could be useful. So they've got, and maybe you can help me fill in this list. I think I got them all. They have a seal, a polar bear, an orca, and then the Malamute. Do they have any other Arctic morphs that you can think of?
Oh gosh. I mean, they've definitely more some other things that could survive, like their dolphin could survive there probably easily.
Yeah,
I don't think they've gotten like a snowcat or anything.
No. I think it's just those morphs. But anyway, that's what they're going in with. You know, that's what they're thinking. And then
barely morphing in my story, so I don't know why you're dealing with some.
Oh, there's a lot of morphing to get through. Okay, so they're all talking about their various cold weather morphs and like Platin strategy, and Axe just happens to mention that in his spare time during the day, he was like, I'm going to research some other like cold weather morphs and get something that might be useful that you guys hadn't thought about. So he's like super excited because he's like, oh guys, I got a morph that you didn't even think about. I went to the gardens and I happened to acquire the perfect cold weather morph. Check this out, guys. It's a bird that swims. And they're like, a penguin. Axe, you acquired a penguin? And he's like, yeah, I got a penguin. they're all like, oh, Axe, penguins live in the South Pole, not the North Pole. He's going to be so out of place there. And it's not even a battle morph. A penguin's not a predatory animal. Like it's not going to be a helpful morph. Axe.
Not to correct you a ton, or maybe just the Animorphs are incorrect in this situation. There are some penguins that are North Pole specific. They're not North Pole, but they're like right on the barrier of the North Pole.
Okay. I would have to check the validity of that. I was under the impression that the penguins are in South Pole. North Pole is mostly just Greenland and Canada. And as far as I know, I don't think there were penguins in Greenland or Canada.
And Mother Russia.
Russia's over there too. But I actually did a lot of research in this because I wanted to make it kind of accurate. So I like looked up the North Pole, like the furthest or the closest town to it, and like, travel times. Like I wanted to be pretty accurate on this. So the team arrives at the airport. They meet up with Eric there, who lays out the plan for them. And Eric says the plan is that he got them a private plane. And this is apparently something that we didn't know about the Chi, is that they have just access to crazy resources and money. Just because naturally they've been on Earth so long, they've accumulated basically the amount of money that they could do whatever they need to do, to survive. Mm-hmm. So getting a private plane, flying it, not a problem for Eric. And they're all like, whoa, like Eric is super useful to have on our team. We should do this more. And I also think, it'd be cool if Eric also brought along like a big duffel bag and packed it full of like Arctic clothes for the kids to wear, when they get there. And he's basically like their item holder, helper,
like a donkey.
Yeah, like a pack mule.
Oh, and just so you know, you were correct. Your research is legit. The most northern place that penguins live are the equator. So I was thinking of just regular like birds that live up towards there. So
gotcha. Yeah, puffins. They're different.
Mm-hmm. They're different. as my wife just pointed out in the chat. Thanks, honey.
So they're like, okay, this is the plan. We're flying to the North Pole, right? And they all get in the plane, and Eric kind of explains to them that like we're not actually going to the true North Pole. The nearest human settlement to the North Pole is actually about 500 miles away from North Pole, and it's the small, teeny tiny human settlement of Alert, which sits in the Nunavut territory in Canada. Okay. So this is real. This is a real place. And it's the closest to the North Pole, the true North Pole, that is. But as Eric points out, they're not going to the true North Pole because that's like 500 miles from there and that'd take forever. They're actually just following his destroyed Chi brethren's distress beacon. It's got like a homing thing that Eric can zoom in on to go locate his body. He explains like, there used to be more of us, and it's very hard for Chi to die, but it's not impossible. They can sometimes become trapped, or other problems can happen that cause them to break down, and when this happens, they send out this distress beacon. Okay. So that's the plan. They're going to go to this settlement and then do their Arctic morphs and head north until they locate the distress Chi. So that's like the first act of my book, by the way.
Okay.
So,
So
going in,
within a normal Animorph structure, where are we?
like a third of the way through the book, I think.
Okay. So like
Honestly.
the them getting their morphs and the penguin reveal, that was like our first like kind of scene, like our first big like plot relevant scene.
Sort of. I mean, it'd be the first like 7-8 chapters, probably.
Okay, gotcha.
All of this. Anyway, so they, like I said, they get to the town. They set the plane down and head out, and they're in their Malamute morphs and they're running, and it's kind of familiar because they're sort of similar to wolves. But they're running for like half a day, and they don't encounter anything. They barely even run into like any wildlife. But they're following this tracking beacon, and they're getting really close. And then they start to find this like human encampment kind of. You remember the movie Thor, when Thor's hammer fell in the desert, and then all the people, I don't know, were they S.H.I.E.L.D. or were they just random government people? They built that huge like temporary structure out of like clear plastic tents, basically. Like a little tent city kind of.
Straight from the comics. You had a scene even with the rednecks like trying to pull it themselves and all of that. And then S.H.I.E.L.D. comes in and builds their little Area 51 kind of structure.
Yep. So that's kind of like what they encounter here. There's obviously all these like makeshift tents that look like they were set up super quick, and it just looks like there's something going on here. And they kind of go and investigate, and there's like no one around. There's a lot of footprints, like human footprints, but nobody's there. And after exploring the
John Carpenter's The Thing vibes right now.
Sort of, yeah. They explore the camp. No humans around, no Yeerks around. It's like very strange. So they're following the cheese beacon, and it's leading them to the center of this encampment where the biggest kind of temporary tent is set up. And it's when they enter this tent that they find just bodies of frozen Hork-Bajir and frozen Taxons just strewn about in this room, like a big battle occurred.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
and they're just like, holy crap. Also inside this room is a giant hatch. Think like Lost, like the jungle hatch, only much bigger.
Sure.
And it very clearly is like, oh, wow, this is what they were here for. Whatever this hatch in the ground is, this is what they found. So they're starting to think like, okay, we got to go down here. This is probably where the Yeerks are. Everybody go battle morphs, and we're going to descend into this deep, dark, cavernous, like stairwell. Think like the Yeerk pool, except, not. It's more like a glacial, icy, cave. Like Elsa from Frozen had been there and dug this thing out.
Sure.
So they're going down this cavern, going super low down. It's getting really cold, and they're all just like, what are we going to find? It's dark, it's scary. And then they start seeing...
I assume that one of them says, oh man, I wish we could morph something better than these morphing outfits.
Sure.
Morph shoes.
And so they get down to the very bottom. There's like gas lamps, strung up where clearly the Yeerks had been down there working. And this is where they encounter a creature. And I'm just going to describe it for you. It's unlike any earth animal. This is a creature that is roughly a third the size of a human, so it's probably a little bit above their kneecaps. It's like this little green, almost kind of hunchbacky alien, for lack of a better word. And it's green-skinned, and it's got these white patches of fur all over it. And it's carrying what looks like a candy cane. It's like a red and white striped cane, right? There's a point.
All right. Okay.
And they've got very sharp, pointy little heads as well.
Are we looking at a little Santa's helper here, maybe?
So if you haven't got the reference yet, this is very strikingly similar to what one might think Santa's elves might look like.
Just horrifying. Just horrifying.
Exactly. It's definitely more creepy than anything than Holly Jolly.
Like David Lynch brings you Santa's elves.
Sure. So as they're sitting there like studying this creature that they see kind of mindlessly toiling about in the caverns, they are caught off guard by just a group of them. There's like 3 or 4 of them, right? And then they're obviously not friendly. They actually pull their candy canes up, and it's like a little blade in a sheath. That's what it is. So now they're in a battle with several of these elf-like aliens, okay? They're not particularly strong, but they've got really weird tactics. Like they have these blades, obviously, but then they also throw themselves. So they like launch themselves head first with their pointy little heads into the Animorphs. So that's just a weird quirk, a weird way for them to attack. But they managed to.
It sounds almost like one of the alien like morphs, like Visitor 3 would turn into, or something.
Kind of. This is not something Visitor 3 would take because it's so small, and they really look unintimidating, just more creepy than anything. Kind of like little hobgoblin-y kind of creatures, And they make short work of them. They're able to kill them pretty easily, and they do kill them because there's like really nothing else they can do. They feel bad about it, but they're like, we had no choice. So they keep moving forward, following the cheese tracking beacon, and they find the room or the little cavern where the remains of the broken down chi are. And Eric is able to confirm, like, yeah, he's totally destroyed. Like, I'm gonna do what we chi do, when we put each other to rest or whatever, and he like deactivates him, shuts him down. So that's that little subplot wrapped up kind of. Now they're just like, okay, well, let's figure out what the Yeerks are doing here.
Wait, so the chi that was destroyed by these elf alien things.
No, so Eric also points out that like, I don't know what attacked this chi, but it was not those things that we just fought.
Okay.
Fair. Those things can't do the kind of damage that this chi needed done. So they still haven't found the Yeerks yet. They continue exploring until they come across like the main chamber, we'll call it. And I imagine they're, like up on a ledge or something, and they're kind of spying down, and they see just a whole chamber full of these elf alien creatures. And they're all like scuttling about, doing various things. But for the most part, they're working on another excavation dig. And they're all just working away mindlessly, digging up something. And the team is still confused. Like, where are the Yeerks? Like, there's no Yeerk involvement. These are just weird aliens. And they're about to like pull a strategic retreat and get out of there.
Sure.
When they turn around and they hear like a sniffing kind of thing. They turn around, and now behind them is my take on what a reindeer alien would kind of be like. So it's like a half deer, half wolf, big like hybrid kind of really alien
kind of mangy looking maybe.
Sure, yeah, and it's got a giant rack of these red and white striped spikes for antlers. So that's really, really scary. And now they're being chased by this killer reindeer creature. And just for added effect, it's able to shoot heat beams out of its nose.
Like Rudolph.
More or less. And, Marco would be quipping like, oh my God, I didn't, this is insane. We're being hunted down by Rudolph. He's no reindeer. He's a pain deer.
No wonder they wouldn't let him play their reindeer games.
Sure. So being chased by this creature that they weren't expecting, everybody kind of gets split up down in these catacombs, right? So we have Eric, Jake, and Tobias ending up together. And Cassie and Rachel end up separated from the group, but together. And then X and Marco are both separated and on their own. All right. So that's the regrouping situation here.
Makes sense. Got it.
So Cassie and Rachel get to explore a little bit more of the cave, and they find this really old like settlement. It's kind of like almost like a log cabin, just like super ancient, right? And they go inside of it, and they notice that it's empty, but it looks like it was lived in at some point, and it had to have been by something really big because everything that's inside the little home is like giant sized, like there'd be like a chair, you know, and it's like one of those giant chairs that you sit in. So they're just like confused as all hell, like what is this?
What's this?
While they're snooping around in this settlement, this home, another one of these, you know, mutant alien reindeers comes, and they gotta kind of like hide from it, right? So that's their little subplot. They're trapped in this little cabin hiding from a killer reindeer. Marco actually ended up back at that main antechamber where all the elf aliens are working, and he got to escape by acquiring one of the worker elves and morphing it, right? So he's down there just kind of like trying to blend in, like with a pickaxe, like, okay, I'm waiting for my friends to come save me now. So he's on the killing floor, basically.
Okay, so right now we've got both elf aliens and reindeer aliens. Both are these vicious little trolls of you know, creatures, whatever they are. Are we dealing? Can you reveal yet? Are these aliens? Are they native to Earth? You guys give me something.
Well, I kind of wanted that to be ambiguous, but they're aliens for sure.
This is an alien like colonization effort down here. Okay.
Not quite. I tell you, Coleman, I'm throwing you for a loop. You better buckle up, because like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 says, I'm going to take you for a ride. X happens to be the only one that actually like ran full speed, made it out of the cave. Like he's back up the stairs, back up to the human dig settlement, right? And when he realizes that he's the only one that got out that far, he feels such shame, as Andalites do. You know, he's like, oh, I abandoned my team. So he's like super ashamed of himself, and he knows he's got to go back down there and like rescue his team because he assumes they're all in danger without him. So he's like, I got to find something like up here in this camp that can maybe help me out a little bit, help me take the enemies by surprise. All right. So as he's like rummaging about the campsite, looking for something useful, he sees some more humans coming in a big vehicle towards the settlement.
Mm-hmm. And
noticing that, he starts to morph. Chapter cut. You don't know what he's morphing. We go back to Jake, T-Bird, and She-Bot, as I call them. And they're just kind of laying low right now within the cavern. Maybe they morph something really small, or maybe Eric is... They don't even need to morph, come to think of it, because Eric is like the hologram machine, right? He can put up projections and hide them no matter what. He's like almost overpowered that way. But they're watching the elf aliens excavate something from the ice, right? And then this is when they finally see the Yerks, right? So there's a lone Hork-Bajir, and he's pulling this human who's on a leash. And the human has his eyes covered. He's got his mouth gagged. His hands are shackled together, and he's being led along by this Hork-Bajir. Okay. And behind them, we get our feature creature for this story, okay? So it's another giant, or another alien. Giant, red-skinned. He's got patches of white fur all around him. He's got this elongated head that I imagine being like Majin Buu from Dragon Ball Z. You know how it's got the head tentacle thing, like something like that dangling off the top of his head. Like he's very alien looking, right?
Okay.
So they watch him a little bit and they're like, what the hell is this thing? You know? And then sure, Marco's probably cracking jokes about, well, now we know where, you know, the idea for Santa came from or whatever. And they watch as this disturbing Santa alien kind of births these elf things out of like this big hunchbacky gash.
It's a queen. It's a queen.
So that's also where they got the idea for Santa having like a big sack of toys or presents or whatever. It's just this big back lump that spews out more like elves, kind of like Cybermen, you know? So they witness all this. They see him making more little elf creatures and, you know, putting them to work, doing more digging. And they see this alien go and like allow himself to be shackled. Okay. So the Hork-Bajir and the human shackle him to the wall, and they're like, what is going on here? They see a Yeerk slither out of the alien's, you know, ear hole, and the Hork-Bajir takes it, puts it back in the human. Human, you know, takes off all of his shacklings and stuff and is like, okay, cool. This is Subvisor 9, right? And this lone Hork-Bajir is the only one besides him that survived this encounter that they had above ground with these aliens, right? And just looking at where I'm at in my notes.
Wait, so the Yeerks are, there's only 2 Yeerks left, this Hork-Bajir and Subvisor 9. And this whole operation with the other aliens, that's completely separate from the Yeerks, right?
Absolutely. So this was something that Subvisor 9 happened upon, right? It was his whole big plot. And he found this Santa creature and all that. And so he's going to obviously try and exploit him. Now there's something else that they're digging and working to unearth here that's a missing piece of this puzzle. And with Subvisor 9 back in his human host body, the red alien or the Santa alien is, you know, free again, and they hear him pleading with the Yeerks to stop what they're doing. They don't understand what they're messing with, and they shouldn't be digging anymore. But the Subvisor's like, oh no, you can't stop us now. Now it's going to happen. Like, and he laments that so many of his underlings died in this process, but he's super happy that, you know, the alien can just birth more workers. Like that's convenient for him. And this is where, you know, Jake and Eric, who are watching out, they're like, okay, so if Santa alien's not an ally of the Yeerks, we now have to rescue him and, you know, stop the Yeerks from whatever they're doing here. So they locate Marco, and they're kind of thought speaking, and he's filling them in on like what he sees down on the floor. He notices that the Subvisor has this like candy cane that's very similar to the ones the little elves are carrying, and that's how he controls the little elves, by the way.
Okay.
So the elves are like definitely close to digging something up, and the Subvisor and his lone Hork-Bajir guard have to leave to go report back to Visor 3. All right. So when they skedaddle, Marco moves in and kind of makes contact with Santa, right? And the Santa alien's obviously like, you are not one of my children. What are you?
No, I want you to do the voice.
I didn't. Okay. You are not one of my children.
Is the Santa being played by John Rhys Davies in this one, or
John Goodman?
John Goodman. Okay.
Yeah. So the Santa alien basically tells Marco that like the enemies are trying to unearth this ancient evil that's slumbering underground. Okay. And it's Krampus. I mean, I don't name him as such, but he describes it as his brethren that came to Earth with him long ago, and they used to be like, tight. And then over time, his brethren became evil and corrupt and wanted to destroy the humans in this world that they found. And the Santa alien's the one who's keeping him trapped there and keeping him at bay, right? But the Yeerks have come in and screwed that up. But they can't let the ultimate evil escape from this place. They gotta be stopped. And Marco finds that he's unable to rescue Santa because he's shackled with these Yeerk locks or something that they can't just get him out of there, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We don't have the key, and they promise they're going to get him out of there though, and rescue him and stop the Yeerks. So back to Cassie and Rachel, they're having their scuffle with the reindeer, a little showdown. They manage to get the best of it though and acquire their alien reindeer. Meanwhile, Axe up top in penguin morph goes up and encounters some Russians that have just arrived on the scene. And the Russians are like, what the hell's this settlement here? This isn't a Russian settlement. They can't find a flag around. They don't know whose it is. So they're just coming to investigate, right?
Russians don't see a flag. They just assume it's up for grabs.
Basically, so they're coming in and they're just humans. They're not like Yeerks or anything. And Axe is like, oh boy, I don't know what to do here. He's trying to formulate some kind of plan, but before he can, the Hork-Bajir and the Subvisor show up and just outright kill the Russians. Okay, so they're taken out of the equation. And Axe manages to hide and watch the Subvisor make his call to Visor 3. So the Subvisor calls Visor 3. He gets a little cameo in this book and tells him that he hasn't found anything, right? So you get the standard Yeerk on Yeerk treachery going on because he's like, oh, I can't tell Visor 3 what we found, or he's going to take credit for it. So
really, if you think about it, if we've learned anything from Animorphs, is that all the Yeerk leadership are just super passive aggressive to each other. And I'm sure interaction is no different. Definitely.
So, Visor 3 is like, you haven't found anything yet. Your mission's been going on way too long. Come home and you're going to be fired and killed or whatever. and Subvisor 9's like, obviously I'm going to bring both of these excellent host bodies that I've found back with me. And then we're going to upstage Visor 3 and, I'll be Visor 1 from here on out. Right. So Jake and the rest of the team kind of all regroup back down below together and cook up a plan. Using Eric's holograms, they managed to hide out, waiting for the Subvisor to return. And when he does, they spring this surprise attack on him and a big battle ensues, right? And the Subvisor manages to use the cane to control the elves and make them to attack. And this is where, the big climax of the book, big bloody battle where the whole team's in battle morph. Eric is, standing by. He's not really helping, but he's able to provide a holographic shelter for them to retreat into, demorph, and then remorph. So that's super useful, actually.
I almost thought you were going to say Eric forms a hologram of the Animorphs cheerleaders. Just on the sidelines, yeah, you can get him. Yeah, good swipe. You got him. Get him on the ropes.
Sure. So while they're having this big bloody battle, things are really chaotic, and they're going for the staff or the cane to try and get that away from the Subvisor. And in the ensuing fight, they break it. They accidentally break the cane, and this causes all the elves to just go bonkers. They're out of control now, and this is when Santa starts to warn that the ultimate evil is awakening. They've gone too far. They're too close, and now the team's got to try and escape. So they're all in full on retreat mode, and they're still trying to rescue Santa. Subvisor 9's been dealt with. Him and his Hork-Bajir guard are not a problem anymore. They've been defeated. And the Santa's basically look, don't worry about rescuing me. Just get out of here and try to figure out a way to, seal us down here, right?
I feel like the way you're telling his dialogue, it's like this is this massive, like red lobster, like alien, horrifying creature, and just like, hey guys, just go on without me. Like he's water, or you go on without. I need some voice acting.
Oh, okay. Well, I in these stories, all the aliens they encounter are able to thought speak at them in English.
That's true.
So
you're 100% right.
even the crab monsters that they found in the prehistoric era were able to communicate with them. So
hey, those crab monsters were fossil accurate as far as I'm believing.
They're all trilobites. And anyway, this is the point in the story where the cave starts to tremble. They can hear this very just ominous, evil sounding moaning, groaning coming from the excavation pit. And, maybe even one of them looks down there and they see something that they don't even describe. It's just so terrifying. Whatever it is they see, they're like, we gotta go now, and they're booking it out of there. And this is when the cave starts to rumble. And as they're making their way towards the exit, this huge vehicle comes barreling down the stairs through the hatch, and it's Axe, and he's driving the Russians, big Arctic excavator vehicle, and he drives it right down into the cave, and everyone's like, yay for Axe, he showed up. Axe gets out and he's like, hey guys, what did I miss? They're like, we gotta escape, we gotta figure out a way to stop anything from getting out of here, basically. And so Axe is like, oh, well, lucky for you, these Russians that I found just happen to have a bunch of excavation tools and weaponry and explosives on them, because they're Russians, they do that. And he's like, they had a good amount of TNT on board their thing, and I've set up a crude self-detonation device that's going to go off, right? And they're like, oh, perfect. So everybody manages to flee and get out of the cave as the explosives go off. Massive cave in. They bury the Santa, the elves, the reindeer, the Krampus monster, all buried under tons of ice. And that's the end of that conflict, right? So everybody gets out. Eric says kind of a final goodbye to his Chi brethren, and then they leave. And then we get our wrap up chapter. Okay. So everyone's back at Cassie's barn, having missed Christmas break. They're all really disappointed. The Chi got to go and have all their fun. And then we get, them saying things like, Rachel's like, oh yeah, and my Chi that visited my father in Australia, apparently they went surfing, and now I'm like some almost world-class expert surfboarder, apparently, right? Because of the Chi's super ability.
Yeah.
And then Cassie's like, oh yeah, you think you got it bad? The Chi that was me went to volunteer and then started not only fed every single homeless person, he also started doing medical diagnostics for everyone and really going the extra mile to help these people. And so Cassie's parents think she's some kind of pre-med genius now.
A prodigy, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas Marco is like, okay, so you guys think that's messed up. The Chi that went to visit my family apparently was some Jewish, computer, basically, encyclopedia. And now my extended family believes I'm some big, practicing Jew, right? We're he even set me up for a, what is the rite of passage that the guy, I'm such an idiot for forgetting
a bar mitzvah?
Like a bar mitzvah? Yeah. He's like, oh, they've even started planning my bar mitzvah. Oh, this is horrible. And so it's kind of a funny wrap-up chapter like that.
I want that book. Marco's bar mitzvah.
Right. And the ending of the book, okay, is that everybody kind of exchanged presents with each other. And then lastly, Tobias swoops in, perches up above, and Marco, not Marco, but Tobias calls to Jake. He's like, hey, Jake, check me out. and Tobias has got a piece of mistletoe in his mouth, and he's perched right above Cassie. And he's like, "Hey, Jake, look what I got." And then, it just kind of ends with Jake standing up and approaching Cassie. And you know what's going to happen. So, boom, that's my book. That is the Animorphs Encounter Santa.
I was wondering as we went along whether it would hit this or not, but I feel like overall that does feel like something they would do in a Megamorphs, like something that references something from Earth history, and you find out that it was aliens the whole time, and the Yeerks were involved. Like that does feel like an Animorph or like a Megamorphs book.
And that is something that I'd also like to point out through dialogue. Either the Santa creature himself tells the team, or maybe Eric pulls the information that, I was around when the myths of Santa Claus and his elves and Krampus, all that started. And I was around when it got, attributed to Saint Nick and all of that. But I didn't know that this is where, those rumors came from. Something like that. So, that's my standard Christmas Animorphs adventure that I think would really fit in with the canon of the series. And it's not too far out of line with stuff that they've actually done. Just taken, historic things and basically came up with aliens did it, right?
No, I think that's perfectly on par. We came at this at two very different angles.
Yes, and that's what I love is that yours is totally like I don't want to call it, by the numbers Animorphs.
No. I specifically tried to sound like something you could like if you were young and you were looking through the library Animorphs books or whichever ones they had. Like this might just be one that comes out of the normal series.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I liked how yours was very grounded in reality as far as these things go. And then I just took mine to the furthest, craziest extreme that you would imagine from a Christmas special.
Which Animorphs has done in the past. They've done things just as crazy as that. Atlantis, come on.
Yeah, exactly. They take, pre-existing concepts and give them a little alien Animorph spin. I was really tempted to include, Krayak or the Elemist. Excluded that. I almost considered having them, actually have Krampus awaken and then having a big final showdown with that. But I honestly like it a lot better if they just avert the big disaster from happening.
You can leave that for the sequel too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, fans are gonna be pissed that we didn't solve any of the major plot holes in Animorphs with our books. But
yeah, who needs that?
Krampus is actually the big bad from the end of the series.
It could be.
Well, yeah, that's great. Did you see Liz's review? 5 out of 5 pain deer head spines.
Oh yeah. Good stuff. Well, I'm glad that hopefully you enjoyed our stories. This was really fun for us to do, I think.
Yeah, I feel like we could do this in the future again. Whatever book series we're on in the future, like an Ender's Game Christmas would be pretty funny. I feel
Lord.
I don't know if Goosebumps ever did any Christmas books.
Oh, I guarantee they've got Christmas themed ones. Yeah,
they had to or something. I don't know, but we could definitely keep this going.
The Fright Before Christmas.
Yeah, personally, I just like the idea of us doing a live stream and pulling an episode out of it that didn't have to necessarily come from a book. So let us know if you like this. First off, let us know which story, which book you want. So go on our Twitter, go on our Facebook, or go on start a Reddit thread and let us know which book you would actually like to be printed and turned into a real Animorphs book.
Mine or Coleman's? Which one's better?
Let's turn
it into that.
Rate that so one of us feels bad.
Or what's your rating? Blank out of 5, and then fill in.
Yeah,
give us your rating for our stories. We'd like to hear them. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
And we're going to post this as a normal episode, a normal podcast episode. Right after we're done streaming, it'll turn into a YouTube video that you can watch in the future, or whatever, however you consume your Thoughtspeak.
Yeah. So if you didn't join us during this live stream from the very beginning, you can go back and see what you missed.
Sure. And so I want to thank everybody for coming out, hanging out with us for an hour and a half. a little longer than that. If you like us doing more things like this, if you like these episodes that don't even have to necessarily be tied to a book, but are still within that Thoughtspeak realm, let us know. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's, it's the joke that like and subscribe that every YouTube video does. But honestly, you'll get notified every time we do a live stream like this, most of which will be a normal episode of Thoughtspeak. So, and of course, if you're a Patreon subscriber as well, we tend to notify the Patreon subscribers when we're going to do a live broadcast as well. And then you can join the chat, hang out with us. We've had some great chat. I want to go through the chat real quick because they threw out some ideas for their Animorphs books. So you give me a second, I'll do that. So
sure, they mostly come from Tony Abbott.
Yeah. So Tony Abbott jumped to the chat, and he wanted the Animorphs to also morph penguins to save Santa from Visitor 3's plot to turn every stocking in the world into a Yeerk pool.
Every
stocking in the world to turn into a mini Yeerk pool. Yeah. A Sario rip blasts the gang to the first Hanukkah, where they must assist the first Chi in finding the Pimelite stone, which will enable the candle oil to burn 8 times longer than normal.
That's out there, man.
The Christmas Chronicles. Visitor 3 wants to give the Council of 13 a new charging dock for the Kendrona, but Visitor 1 buys the last one on Black Friday. Visitor 3 must steal it before to save Christmas and his career.
These are some pretty far out there ideas.
They're all golden ideas, I think.
I like this one. Axe's scoop is the location for Christmas dinner, but the High Command discovers his meal plan and forbids him to cook the traditional Andalite Christmas dish, citing Ciro's kindness. Axe must once again choose between his friends and his people.
Oh, it's glorious. Absolutely glorious. So yeah, this is amazing. I had a lot of fun doing this and coming up with the ideas and everything. So again, if you like this sort of thing, subscribe to us, subscribe to the YouTube channel, become a patron on Patreon, like us on Facebook, hit me up on Twitter. We've got all these different ways that you can contact us and be a part. If you want to send an email to thoughtspeakcast@gmail.com, we respond to those and read them on the air sometimes. But again, just, any interaction with us, we appreciate any ratings or reviews you give us on however you listen to the podcast, go a long way to helping us out and spreading the word of the podcast. So that's our plugs. I hope you enjoyed this Christmas and that you have a good Christmas yourself, or holiday season, however that you celebrate. Or if you just have some time off work, have a good time, get some rest. We appreciate you coming out and spending some time with us.
Totally. And love to do it again. So please support us on Patreon and we'll make that happen. But like Coleman said, happy holidays, and we'll hopefully see you next time.
Thoughtspeak 2019 is going to be a big year, guys. Big year.
Oh, absolutely. That's one last thing I wanted to touch on is that you've probably noticed we're gearing up the website for this big relaunch. It's Thoughtspeak, a book nostalgia podcast. So 2019, we are wrapping up the Animorphs series and moving into new territory. And boy, do we hope y'all stay with us for that.
I'm really excited to talk about so many other book series that mean a lot to us. And, if you liked our discussions and our tangents on aliens, just wait till we get vampires. That's where we're really going to shine, I think.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Well, everybody, again, have a good holiday season, and we'll see you in the new year.
Peace!